Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. Today, we're coming at you with our 2020 NFL Draft wide receiver rankings. First and foremost, I want to let you guys know that I will be live streaming my live reactions to the NFL Draft. So, those of you who want to watch that, please set that reminder Thursday at probably around 7:45 p.m. I'll start live streaming. It will be me and my brother just sitting down and watching the draft. So, if you want to be there for that, please get on. And yeah, let's get right into it. At number one, I have Ceedee Lamb, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. The next two guys, along with Ceedee, who I'm sure you'll know, are all comparable. I think all of them could be rotated in and out of the one spot. I could see reasons why all of them are number one, but to me, Ceedee is the most complete receiver in this class. He has elite jumping ability and rack ability. He can go up and get the football and make guys miss after the catch, which is why I think teams are so drawn to him. My only con for him is that he doesn't have elite speed. Now, Ceedee is a fast dude, but compared to some of the other guys in this class, he doesn't have getaway speed. But if that's your only con, then I think you're in a good spot. You can see that stat line from 2019. He's a beast, and I'm a huge fan of Ceedee's. At the number two spot, I have Henry Ruggs III, the wide receiver out of Alabama. 40 catches this year for only 746 yards, but you have to remember he was in a wide receiver room with Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, so a really solid group that they had at Alabama. But 25% or so of his catches went for touchdowns, so you can just see how productive he is. He has elite speed and big play ability. Also has good hands. Doesn't drop the ball a lot, which is why I think he is one of the better, faster receivers we've seen in a really long time. My con for him would be that he's not really physical at the line of scrimmage and struggles getting off press. But again, that's not what teams are looking for him to be in the role, being on that outside and getting pressed. I think that he'll be used in the slot. He'll be used sometimes on the boundary where, they're playing cushion coverage. So I think Ruggs is a do-it-all wide receiver that can make it big time in the NFL. At number three, I have Jeudy, the wide receiver out of Alabama. 77 catches, 1,163 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He has the best route running in this class, and his rack ability is good. I know I have hands and drops in both the pro and con, which might seem contradictory, but out of the top three, I think Jeudy drops the ball the most, which is why he's at 3 for me. But again, his route running is unmatched in this class, and I think that he'll be a fantastic NFL wide receiver. At 4, I have Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver out of LSU, racked up the most production out of any wide receiver in this year's class with 111 catches, 1,500 yards, and 18 touchdowns. His route running is up there with the best. Has a fully developed route tree, and his rack ability is really good as well. And his hands are consistent. My only con for him is that he plays small at times. He isn't necessarily that big play, jump up and win the 50-50 ball wide receiver. But again, that's not going to be his role on the NFL team. So these cons for the top guys really aren't things to worry about because Jefferson will be lining up on the slot in the NFL. And I think that that will fit his abilities perfectly. At 5, I have wide receiver Brandon AIYUK out of Arizona State. 65 catches, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns for this kid this year. He's a fantastic returner and really a Swiss Army knife to me. You can use him how the 49ers use Deebo Samuel. I think he brings a lot to the table as an underrated player. My only con for him is that he gets physically dominated by those bigger corners. But if he's going up against guys his size or is playing in the slot, he'll flourish in the NFL. At 6, this is probably the one that a lot of people aren't going to agree with. I have Tyler Johnson, the wide receiver out of Minnesota, and I want to make this clear. This isn't where I think the order that I think these players are going to get drafted. It is my personal rankings. Johnson has consistent production, back-to-back 1,000-yard years at Minnesota, 86 receptions this year, along with 13 touchdowns. He is a fantastic route runner and has all the technique to be an NFL wide receiver. The only problem with him is that he has struggled with drops, but they aren't it isn't a consistent problem, and he doesn't have great on-field speed. So that getaway speed and his ability to separate between wide receivers on the boundary is probably a concern, but if you line him up in the slot, much like Jefferson, I think he'll be a fantastic player on whatever NFL team he lands on, and is probably one of my biggest steals of this NFL draft. At 7, I have wide receiver Michael Pittman out of USC. 100 receptions this year, 1,200 yards, and 11 touchdowns. He runs those underneath routes which you can see by his average, but he also has amazing ball skills and jumping ability. He can go up and get the football, and he's a reliable target. Really burst on the scene this year at USC, was up for the best wide receiver of the year. I think his route running and his route tree needs to be more developed and cleaned up. However, I think he is more than capable of being a prime NFL wide receiver. At 8, I have T. Higgins, wide receiver out of Clemson. T's kind of just that mediocre guy that gets I don't even want to say mediocre because he is good, but gets consistent production and especially red zone production. You can see those 13 touchdowns. He's always getting the football in the red zone, or at least he was at Clemson. He has a good frame, but his route tree isn't anything special to me. It's underdeveloped. I think that if he works on that, then he can really grow into one of the better wide receivers in this class. But again, the production's there, so I think that he's a top wide receiver in this class and will find an NFL home late first or early second round. At 9, I have DENZEL MIMS, the wide receiver out of Baylor. MIMS to me is DK Metcalf. Insane athleticism for his size, really, really good ball skills, but his wide receiver abilities to me are questionable. His consistency with his hands isn't great, and his route running is definitely probably the worst on this list. Didn't really learn that full route tree, and in college he was able to separate from wide receivers based off his athleticism. That's not going to work in the NFL, so I think MIMS has a lot to work on, but his athleticism puts him above a lot of other guys on this list. At 10, Jalen Reagor, wide receiver out of TCU. Final wide receiver in my top 10. 43 receptions this year, 611 yards. That was down from his 2018 season, but he's still a productive guy. His speed on the field is really good. I know his 40 was disappointing for some people, but he has a solid route tree. He can run most of the routes. My con for him is he has a slow start versus bigger competition, and has a pretty big dropping issue. So I think out of the 32 wide receivers in the class, he ranked 30th in catch rate, which is not great, but he had a freshman quarterback last year. I think that in the right system and in the right scheme, he could really develop into a solid wide receiver. It was between him and Laviska Shenault for the last spot on this list, but I think Reagor is worthy of it just because of Shenault's injuries. I think that's going to leave a big question mark in the NFL. I'm a big fan of Shenault personally, but I have to think about their long-term future in the NFL, and I think Reagor has a slight upper hand on Shenault. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you liked it, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. Again, I will be live streaming the draft on Thursday, my live reactions, so tune in then. Take it easy. Peace.